Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today's video, this one, is going to be about invisibility, and we're going to talk about invisibility and the various ways that it possibly could be and is being used. The military already has it. Um, please, this is just for entertainment purposes, so please don't take down my video and target me in any way for giving this information out because it's already in the public domain. We'll start with Ghost Recon. Ghost Recon, a fun game, a fun video game that's still out there today. It's been completely hijacked and changed. Tom Clancy originally started it. And so I think I want to say at the third installment of Ghost Recon games. So it was probably over a period of, 8 years, 6 years. He'd been developing this game along with Rainbow Six and a few other different games. Everybody that's a gamer will understand this. But at the very last game where he was still alive, and I have to tell you that I do believe that he was taken out. He's pretty old, so it was probably easy for him. The family was silent about the whole thing. But anyway, getting back to Ghost Recon, in the last game of Ghost Recon on PlayStation 3, it showed invisibility, and I want to say that they kind of had a little bit of like ramping up to that maybe in the game previously, but it's been so long now I can't remember, so that might be false. The game itself, the game that I'm talking about, was very interesting, very good game. It's probably still a fun game. And in this game, they had partial invisibility. It was basically an opaque suit. I would assume that it was electrical. And I think that's how they're achieving this, this opacity or this invisibility. And what that does is it basically just covers you in an electrical grid or an electrical field. And somehow this electrical field is distorting your vision. It's distorting how you see this light. I don't know. I guess it's the photons, and that's probably about as that's above my pay grade there. I don't try to think of that. Well, we'll get into that in a second here, a little bit more. Let's talk about it right now. So it's a form of phasing out. So what's going on is these particular suits basically created like a mirror, and it just sort of reflected the surroundings around you, but in an opaque sense, such that it was like not glossy or high gloss looking at it, but it distorted it, and it just basically just mimicked what was around it. Now, there's many different types of invisibility. There's a cloak. I mean, there's an invisibility cloak. Where it basically is prisms all through the material, and all these different prisms are refracting the light that's around it and behind it, which is very key. So when you put it on, it's just continuing it around it, and it is a type of fractal in a way. Imagine standing, when I was a kid, I used to look. My mom would drag me shopping, and I'd look in the mirrors, the three-way mirrors, and just looking into the mirrors and the reflection, just infinite, right? So I think that's what's going on with that. So that's not like, but that's not technically anything electrical. That is just the manufacturing and the component of the material. Now, what it was in Ghost Recon was definitely electrical, so they were creating an opacity. And what's not being said about that is that, and this is the reason I think they took him out, amongst many reasons, because he was talking about things, and this is the Obama regime, and they took out him, and I want to say Breitbart, and one other person, all at the same time. They all died, all three of them died right at the same time within like a few days, and so those are all three rabbit holes to go down. The third person, I can't remember who that was. I'm sure somebody will remember and tell me, although it's a little bit obscure now in history. Trying to stick to a 20-minute video here. So let's keep moving forward. Invisibility. Okay, so my feelings on this opacity. Anytime you're creating electricity with an electrical grid, you're creating a field, an electrical field, an electromagnetic field. You're distorting vision. You're distorting. I believe you're coming out of phase slightly, and if you had a rheostat, you could just turn that up like a dimmer. Now, let's get back to the original, the most amazing experiment of them all, which was the Philadelphia experiment. So the Philadelphia experiment, as you know, there's been so many videos and so many articles written on this that I don't need to get into this too much, but we know that was an electrical grid that was set up, and they pumped like high voltage into that operation. That was on a battleship, all metal. I don't know how they did it. I don't know if that was external or on the surface of the ship. We'd have to delve into that, you know, specifically on the Philadelphia experiment, which is, you know, still there's no Freedom of Information Acts allowed on that, and no, you know, they're not going to let out any information on that, although it leaks out anyway. And there's been plenty of leaks about that because people died. Once you phase out, you're molecularly, well, that's hard to say, molecularly entangled. You're entwined. You're just out of phase. But when you snap back into phase, things can change rapidly, obviously, and that's what happened. So some of these soldiers were entangled into their beds. They didn't know. I don't believe they told them. I mean, this is the sinister cabal that ran the industrial military complex that that we're exposing and talking about here. So once they would phase out, they realized it was also going through time. So that this is all intertangled. So this is a short video. We're not going to get too in depth with this. I just want to get this out there, and I want to touch all these different bases on why it matters right now. So it does matter because my point is they killed people over it. So Tom Clancy was taken out, and the game sucks now, right? They've already put 2 games out, 3 games if you want to count that other post-apocalyptic game he put out. I can't remember the name, and it was just horrible. All sandbox games, and it was just not fun. And the technology went straight down. Like, so the technology sucked. Whereas, like, it was really moving into this advanced, platform in the game where they're sort of showing you all these different things. And it was really funny because it was like this really, like, it didn't work that great in the game. Like, it was on purpose like that. They were always complaining about, oh, it's not working properly, this invisibility, which, they had probably like the first gen suits because they must have just kicked them a couple first gen suits out of the closet. Here, try these on. That's a joke. But I mean, because we know that the technology is much greater than that. But another thing that came out of that game was what was called the Warhound, and the Warhound is a robotic machine that basically runs like a deer. It's got the backwards facing knees that break backwards, not forwards. It breaks back. It can run any which way, honestly, and it does run on all fours. And it is a war machine, and it's the Warhound, and it's just scary as hell. So I mean, you're getting into the Terminator. I mean, this stuff exists, and if you go to that game and if you YouTube, all the different things from that PS3, that last PS3 game of Ghost Recon Advanced, I can't think of the name. Somebody will tell me that. Somebody will remember all this. But if you do, there's videos that show the Warhounds coming out like in live video. Yes, it's a movie. Is it a movie? We'll get into that later into other videos because they hide a lot of truth in movies. Like, oh, the magic of Hollywood. It's magic, but it's real. They could easily do that. They could kill somebody in a movie. How would you know? If there's a clone, if they're cloning people, they could have doppelgangers, doubles, clones. It doesn't matter. It's just they could just cap somebody, and that is going on, and we'll get into that in other videos. So that's another great rabbit hole. Okay, so getting back to invisibility. So we talked about the Philadelphia experiment. That was a colossal fail and success at the same time, and people lost their lives, and people's lives were changed forever. Soldiers' lives, of course, because this is all just experimentation from like the Illuminati. The Illuminati's doing this. The Illuminati and the Cabal, they're all the same. The Illuminati would probably be a step down of the Cabal. And this will come from all my videos of the underground and how it all started, because it's the underground that's controlling everybody. I'll say this again and again and again. That's who they pray to. That's where they get their technology from. That's where they're going. And that's where they get their power, their consolidated power from all of this. And they hide all their information so that they can keep their power. All right, back to invisibility. And this is going right back into the underground. This is Richard Shaver. So there are beings that live out in the forest, and a lot of them are what we call Sasquatch. The Indians called them that. I mean, because they knew about them for a long, long time. And we'll do a lot of videos about the Bigfoot, because they're a tribe of people, of humans. I mean, they are human. With beautiful, beautiful hair, apparently. And, they have access to the underground. So anytime you have access to the underground and you are brave enough to go down there, then you will reap the rewards of the technology that's down there. And it appears to me that technology includes, for them, invisibility. And somehow, now I don't know how this technology is being crossed here, but what I will say is that they learn this magic somehow, and this magic is just basically technology. And I don't know how they do it, but they do. And there's many other forms of life that are in and out throughout the tunnels down there. There's like the spider people. There's people that have been taken down there that now have to live down there. There's slaves down there. There's entire families, and by families I mean oligarchs and like basically warlords, and entire crews, if you will. I mean, they're basically organized crime that take control of the tech and the mech and the ray guns that exist down there. Once you have control of even one ray gun, no one can get near you. I mean, this technology is extremely powerful. You can see for miles through the that's my dog. You can see for miles through solid rock. You can access things through the solid rock because of this, because of that technology. Okay, so invisibility. So somehow these creatures are coming back out of these tunnels, and some of these creatures have escaped now, because now this is years later. And Q-Tip, can you knock her out? Q-Tip, stop it. Q. And they're coming out and living into the forest, and they're also having access down into the underground. And they are able to phase out. And so phasing out is an incredible thing. It allows you access to this world and to this phased out gray area. A lot of people might call this the in-between, or there's a lot of names for it. And I don't really know. I mean, I assume, as an electrician, I assume that there's different sets of phased out, because I've seen it. I've seen phased out where you can still touch it, and I've seen phased out where you probably could walk right through it and you can barely see it, and all the way to complete invisibility. So once you're phased out, you can just go right through solid matter, because you're phased out, because you're not having the same density. You're not having the same electromagnetic repulsion or density that would normally stop you that we have, and they use all kinds of techniques and technology to keep us in this third dimensional state. That way I can, you know, there's I can't walk through this door or this wall behind me. I can't. I wish I could. I've done it like probably in a phased out state. In a dream state, we can do this, but these bodies won't allow us. And they probably can, and they can, because there's all kinds of stories of like yogis that have done that in the past. So remember that we're in this matrix. This matrix is ancient. This matrix comprises us of this samsara, the wheel of karma, and we get stuck in it, and we are here in this third dimensional state, and it's an ancient technology. This is my belief. So invisibility, yes, and that is why people can phase out and go into like an orb, which is your original like consciousness. Okay, I'm gonna have to probably cut this short here soon, so we're getting to the end. And I have 4 minutes. Okay. And you'll see people turn into their orbs, and they can just fly through stuff right into your head. I've seen that. I've seen videos of orbs fly right into people's, brain cavity or head. UFOs can go into this phased out state and fly right through a forest and not hit anything. So it's highly advantageous. Okay, the other thing is I just want to get into this, because we'll get into this later, but I have to get this out there, is that obviously there's creatures in the forest that can do this, and Bigfoot's one of them. There's other creatures, but Bigfoot seems to be the most prolific of the user of this technology, and this technology can also be used to envelop your victim or it seems to be like an electrical area. Like you can spread this out into an area, and it because of the electromagnetics, and because normal humans can't usually cope with this sort of electromagnetic activity, they generally start acting drunk. They lose consciousness, they lose memory, and they're disoriented. They use this as a weapon. They use this as a glamour. That's originally what this is called. This is a glamour. Phased out as a glamour. You put a glamour over something, and people cannot see that. They can't get into entrances because they don't know where it is, because it looks like solid rock. That's a type of glamour. They use this in the industry to hide themselves because they're horrible monsters. That's a type of glamour. Like that's why the whole industry of Hollywood is glamorous, because it is hiding what they really are. It's a type of glamour, and it's a mask, and that is invisibility. All these different subjects. Once you are phased out, the Bigfoots apparently can just run through treetops. I'm still getting to the bottom of that, but apparently just even touching any solid matter will provide them enough electromagnetic resistance for them to just move across it in a manner of like floating. I've also seen phased out cloud ships that can separate themselves and reseparate, deseparate, and and reintegrate themselves. A cloud ship will just break off a certain section of their ship, and it'll just fly it around. What they really are in their state, I'm not really sure. Whenever I'm on a ship, and whenever I remember being on a ship, it's just solid matter to me. But what I've seen with my own two eyes is that it's clear that they are using some sort of they're phased out, so they're not in this dimension totally. They look like clouds, but you can see that it's not. You can see the electromagnetics. You can see the flashing, the very quick brilliance of the flashing through the clouds as they separate and reattach. And it's crazy. I've asked them to go backwards against the predominant wind of the day, which is quite often in the 25 mile an hour, or 25 knots. Moving quite quickly, and the cloud ship reseparates and goes backwards against the predominant wind. So that's how they stay in place. everything's moving this way, but they separate and go back this way. And they're creating these clouds. They can create that cloud through pressure density, and that's what it means to be phased out. You are phasing out of this density, in, out. It seems to be like when things are like totally portaling in, they're portaling in fast, in a tiny, and blowing up into a normal size, what they normally are. And that's how they can change size. When you walk into a craft that's very small, like it's like a Mary Poppins effect, what I call the Mary Poppins effect. You walk in, it looks like a 20-foot ship, but on the inside it's like hundreds of yards. It's just like right out of Harry Potter. The reason that they show all that stuff is because it's real. They know about this technology, and this is the Freemasons that hide it all. It's all different levels of hiding these things. And ultimately, it's this Lucifer AI that's, that it wants to just get rid of all organic matter. There's that going on, and then there's all these different families in the underground that are just so evil they can't even think straight. That's how fucked up they are. Imagine being I shouldn't have said that, but imagine being on drugs so hard, you're so debauched that you're torturing people and you're killing them and you're bringing them back to life because you have this technology, but you don't even know how to use it properly, just so you can torture them again. And you wield so much power that the people on the surface, those people want that power. And just a little bit that they get from you, from the ancients, because that was from the ancient builder race and all the Lemurian and advanced civilizations that kept using this free energy. Just that little bit of technology can launch an entire civilization, like the Romans, the Greeks, America, all through Europe, the Khazarian Mafia, which basically that's who we're fighting against. Okay, so anyway, so that was invisibility. I think I touched on enough of that. Let me tell you, there's all kinds of invisible creatures in the woods, so be very, very careful. Do not go into the woods alone. I'm looking at my timestamp. And okay, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you later. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe. I'm going to keep trying to put out videos. Okay, goodbye.